So let us discuss about 10th June 2015 newspaper. The first article is related to the advent of the Islamic State. So now what is the objective of the Islamic State is to declare a caliphate in the entire Islamic world. Now it is Sunni Wahhabism which these Islamic State people believe in. What exactly leading is they are also seeing other sections or other sector, this particular Shias and all the other Muslims also as antagonistic to their thought. Now in this context, all the historical evidences of this particular sects is being removed by this Islamic State. It has started in Mosul in Iraq. Now Mosul is the second largest city in Iraq. Then they also tried to occupy this Tikrit, which did not succeed. Now later in Syria they are able to occupy this Palmyra, which is an important city that connects the energy with the Damascus. Now with regard to the movement into Kurd regions, there is a stiff resistance for the stiff resistance for the Islamic State. Now in this process, when they occupied the Mosul, so they have killed Yazidis. So this Yazidis, these are the people who follow something called Sufism. So they have got the historical connections with India too. Next, after that, so Assyrian archaeological sites in Nimrud, they are also being destroyed. So in Nimrud, this Assyrian archaeological sites, now if you remember that it is one of the, Iraq is also one of the ancient history or ancient civilization. So at the Assyrian city, this Assyrian archaeological sites, they have winged bulls and all these are the typical historical resemblances of beliefs of the Iraqians. And so they are the Assyrian kingdom, they are the symbols of that particular Assyrian kingdom. Now coming to Nepal, if you see over here, first various agreements are made over here. The first is, there will be a federation will be established with 8 provinces. The demarcation of this federation will be done by an independent commission which is appointed for this purpose. And in the meanwhile, elections to the local bodies also will be conducted, which are pending since 1997. Lack of local bodies is cited as one of the reasons for failure of rehabilitation during earthquake. And after that, the mixed electoral system is proposed where 60% of MPs will be elected by first past the post system and the remaining people will be elected by the proportional representation. Now, actually the Maoists have recommended for the demarcation of the provincial boundaries to give a specific advantage to the historically marginalized sections. So what other people opposed to it, saying that it ultimately lead to divisions in the country and it is not safer in the security interest and also the unity of the nation. So that was rejected. So Maoists, those are the historically marginalized sections are the stronghold of the Maoists. That's why Maoists have proposed for this particular thing. These are the agreements which have come up with regard to Nepal. And with regard to the land bill, certain farmers associations have brought in certain the problems or issues to the notice. The first one is, the private company is described as a private entity in the amendment bill. So from company to entity, it means individuals, private individuals can also be given the land. So how this change, why this change is necessary is questioned. The second thing is, the important part of Land Acquisition Act of UPA government is social impact assessment. So these provisions are being done away by the amendment bill. The third thing is the returning of the land. So now any land which is not used for the within the stipulated time, then the land has to be returned to the farmers. This provision is also being done away within the amendment bill. Finally, there are something called exclusive corridors. So this what is a new provision added for which the government can acquire the land. The definition of this exclusive corridors is not very clear. These are the questions raised by the Farmers Association with regard to land acquisition. And next is with regard to the marital rape. Marital rape, let us understand the section 375 of Indian Penal Code. and Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code. Section 375, which generally defines the rape, exempts the marital rape or forcible intercourse by the husband out of the scope of the definition of the rape. Now, Section 498A, it also talks about physical and mental abuse by the husband and the in-laws, but not about the sexual abuse. If you see the evidence in the country, more than 8% of the women, around 8.5% of the women, they have reported one or the other form of sexual violence by their partners. Among this, only less than 1% of the cases are reported to the police stations. So the sexual violence is very high in India, but the reporting is relatively less. Now the next article, if you see, so the misogyny, considering women that they have to meet a certain form of violence based on their gender, it is what is the rationale among few people to prone them or to make them prone for violence. And next is the Justice Verma Committee also said that these exemptions in the Indian Penal Code has to be done away with, and the marital rape also has to be brought within the scope of the Indian legal system. So if you can remember what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has said, no law will be complete without our social conscience or moral conscience of the society. So rights are not protected by the law alone, but by moral and social conscience of the given society. Now if you take in India, social reform and changes in the social attitudes are very critical for any law to succeed. So unless the conservative attitudes of India against a woman and her status are done away with, so there will not be progressive on the gender issues with regard to this country is concerned. Along with this, the awareness about the laws related to the sexual violence is very low among the law enforcement agencies. There are various laws. If you talk about Section 375, 376, they are related to rape. And next is prevention of sexual violences, or else Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act, that is called POSCO Act 2012. So, and next is SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act. All these deal with one or the other sexual offense. The law enforcement offices or law enforcement authorities are not very clear about these particular protections which are there for the citizens. So if we want to improve the law, we have to improve the social conscience. Along with that, we have to strengthen or build the capacities of the law enforcement agencies and legal literacy. These three forms the critical to take forward the things. And next is Erdogan. In the recent elections, the Erdogan's Justice and Development Party, it has just won 258 seats. So now it is seen as a setback for the Erdogan himself, because Erdogan he himself moved away from the party and he was recommending for constitutional changes to bring in an bipartisan office of the president to take forward the Turkey. Now in this context, what are the setbacks are? So you want to change the constitution towards the presidential system with the existing majority, which he can't do. And next is, now there is a fight over here. So there is a political Islam which was built by Erdogan. The Turkey is generally a secular state. Now Erdogan has given expression to the conservatives, religious conservatives, along with the economically weaker sections. He did social engineering with these two groups, and which has made the political system of the Turkey sustainable or stable for 13 years. Now it poses the challenges to the Erdogan because he did not get the requisite majority to form the government. And the second thing is the pro-Kurdish party, that is People Democratic Party, that is pro-Kurds party. It has first time entering into the representative houses. It has crossed its 10% minimal requirement of the votes. Now it has 80 seats in the representative house. It means that the Kurds, who are the minorities, which are generally opposed by the politically opposed by the Justice and Development Party, are going to get a say and voice in the representative houses. So in this context, the supporters of Erdogan says that he is responsible for bringing in stability to Turkey. Now, what is the thing is, the PDP brings in something called as secular tones to the political system. So the development of these minority voices and also the secular tones, in the long run they are going to damage the political Islam which was built by the Erdogan. So these are the setbacks to Erdogan in the recent elections. And next is the zeal for yoga. Yoga and sensitive issues have to be built or have to be moved through popular support rather than government's blatant exposure or showing a interest towards these activities. So the building consensus among the community has to be given a due scope of action before such an activity is taken up. So then the popular support will be high towards such an activity. So the government cannot get the things done in a country such as India through its forcible will. So it is a persuasion is the better way to get the things move forward. That's what is the article talks about. Now, the next article, it is related to Aruna Shanbaug's case. What it says is the Supreme Court has given certain landmark judgments in the Aruna Shanbaug's case. So it has said in the terminally ill patients are in patients who cannot make the judgments for themselves, who can be guardians of them. That is, who can be the next friends who can make decisions on their behalf. That is made clear by this particular thing. And the second thing is the passive euthanasia is allowed in the country. And after that, it also provided for a right of the persons who are in the persistent vegetative state. Now this is on the positive side of the judgment. Now let us see the person who is convicted in this case, Mr. Valmiki. If you observe him, so now after 42 years, he has moved away from that particular place and he is living in a remotest corner or village in Uttar Pradesh. Now, exposure of the media about him, it brought social outcasting and also it has made him to lose his living opportunities. Now, any conviction or any jail term is towards the reform of an individual. If it is the case, Valmiki did not have any crime history at a later date, history of crime at a later date. He is purely a reformed individual now. But however, the media's exposure and next is the social outcasting and threatening of his livelihoods that shows the failure of our social system, and Supreme Court has to look into this to these reformed individuals. 42 years is too big a time for any individual to change and adopt to the life. So he has recognized his mistake and he is taking an alternative course of life, and he shall be made peaceful in that because he has respected the legal system and he has taken forward. So it means the making him to meet the suffering is not against to the constitutional order in the country. And at the Myanmar border, Indo-Myanmar border, so Indian special forces have taken up a surprise attack which is described as hot pursuit. Now, here recently in Manipur, there is an attack on the Indian army vehicle which led to the